Internet. That was for you, Horace. Little Mrs. Doubtfire greeting there for ya. Hello! Just picture my face covered in cake icing and I'm peeking over a fridge. What do we got today? We got the Axiom. Oh, maybe I should rotate the lid to make it line up with the back, huh? How's that? Choking hazard. This toy has small parts. So we got the Axiom Spinners. What do you think it is? Tetra. Ooh, look at her. Machine finish. She looked good. So before we get this started, shout out to Alan over at Fidget and Style. Really dig his channel. I've shouted him out once before. Probably just because I mentioned this in the previous shout out as well. I feel like his channel's got a similar style and format to mine in the sense that it just seems like a really chill dude, kind of talking off the top of his head about spinners he likes. So we like that sort of thing. So we're on board. So definitely check out his channel. I'll try to remember to put a link to his channel down below. In any event, I saw the first real review I saw of this was on his channel, which is why I wanted to shout him out. I've seen this kind of floating around. So this is from the same guys that do the Axiom and the Triax, which especially the Axiom looks like 2 axe heads. It's a bar style spinner, which I'm really kind of thinking about. Those are kind of more high-end offerings from these guys. Let's bring this up so you can see it while we're talking. So those are more high-end offerings from those guys where they just had a sale, but it's sold out for 99 bucks, but they're normally 120 and either 130 or 140 for the tri version. So so this is a China-made, more mass-produced version that you can get very affordable. So this runs 40 bucks retail, and they have sales from time to time where you can get a little bit of money off and stuff like that. So they were formerly under the 2R Designs, but they really kind of wanted to have their own brand, and from what I understand, it's sort of a family arrangement, so it's not like hard feelings, you know, with them breaking off from 2R Designs. So, but you can find all their stuff on Axiom Spinners or Axiom-Spinners. So, but we got a nice little spinner here. So, we'll get some of the stuff out of the way right off the bat. This is a 70-gram spinner, so relatively light, all things considered. They make it in a couple different finishes, like a gunmetal finish. I don't think it's a black, in both machined and blasted. This is also a great spinner to talk about, and Alan pointed this out. I don't know if I would have noticed it. We've got 5 cutouts here and 4 arms, so it's really a great one to kind of talk about warping, because the way warping works, just as a little side tangent here, is when the rotation of the spinner matches the frame rate of the camera. Now with a 4-arm spinner, you have to have basically some sort of 1/4, or you know, 30 frames per second divided by 4, whatever that is. You know, if you had a 3-arm spinner, some sort of rotation that was you know, some multiple of 10, since it's 30 frames per second and 3 arms. So so with this, some sort of division of 4, 30 divided by 4, but then this, since there's 5, some sort of division of 5, if that makes any sense at all. I'm probably not saying that right and didn't bother to try and say that in my head before I did this. But what happens is you get different warps with this. So the outside arms will warp at different intervals than the inside arms. So you get this real kind of like reverse effect on the warp. Now obviously it doesn't look like that, anything like that in person. Let's see those inner rings reverse, because now they're lining up, the outside arms aren't. Let's try a really fast one here. All right, see that? Radical, but so rad. So just a little bit more on how frame rates and warping works for you guys. So let's talk about this guy a little bit though. We're 3 minutes in, so probably definitely time to start talking fit and finish. Now, this version that I got, at the very least, I'm starting to realize that with the exception of something like the Portal or the Focus, most machine finishes, I'm realizing, really have a little bit of work that needs to get done. This one had these little burrs on a lot of the edges, and it wasn't too bad, but on really hard fidgeting, really hard preloaded flicks, you could really feel that and almost feel like it was cutting you. Now, it didn't actually cut me or anything like that, but I could just feel that sharp burr that wasn't really pleasant. I took 2000 grit sandpaper, maybe 800 grit, I forget, but a pretty high grit, so nothing too aggressive, just to kind of all the edges, just to kind of dull that a little bit, and for the most part that took care of it. But just as a heads up, with the machine finish, I'm seeing that a lot with machine finishes. Maybe I shouldn't say a lot. I saw that with the Trithrax, and I saw it a little bit with the Very Dapper, where that might be a thing. So just as a heads up, that was kind of a little bit of a negative, but that was really about the only negative. This button suffers from some of the stuff that the Tritons and the Stubby do with the, and the Biton, I guess, since it's not technically a Triton, the Biton, with a flat surface in here, sometimes you can lose grip, but they're relatively small buttons. I think I measured them at 18 millimeters. So they actually, you can still get in there, especially with a bit of a pinch grip. So it comes with a 10-ball stainless steel bearing. it is not a one drop. We can remove the hood here, take off the shoes, see her bare feet. You know, standard bearing retention ring, standard kind of bearing. It's a very, very smooth bearing. It's sort of in there in the realm. I was actually surprised, sort of like the Heck Ferrulo's bearings over at Flavor Zone Essentials. It actually just all of a sudden, for some reason, did this internal ring loosen up? Nope. Just feels like it got a little bit of a rattle, but it felt as smooth as some of those bearings. So like, not quite one drop, but close to one drop smooth. It spins almost silently on a table. But now, literally after taking that button off and putting it back on, I almost feel like the slightest vibration, which I don't mind, as long as it feels clean. So, but for a smaller spinner, it got pretty good spin times too. We were getting 410, 415 on table spins and about 515 on a vertical spin. So not too bad for a little stainless steel 70-gram offering. So one thing you will notice is the arms are not symmetrical, so you got cutouts kind of going in one direction, so depending on how you fidget with it is going to depend on how, or which direction you have it depends on how you fidget with it and the feeling that you get. Now with most of these ones that are two directional, I find that obviously pushing off this edge works better than pushing off this edge, and then pulling on this edge works better than pulling on this edge. But because of these raised weights, especially, you know, not really much of a hot spot other than, again, what I mentioned with those finishing marks, I don't have an issue fidgeting either way. I can definitely kind of tell the difference, but for me it doesn't affect my ability to flick it, partially because that weight's distributed over 4 arms, so you're not kind of pushing quite as much mass, even though the spinner still has that same weight. Something about having the extra arms makes that fidgeting just seem easier. I noticed a similar thing. Motorcycles, you hear them? I noticed the same thing with the Spinetic X. Also something I noticed, there aren't too many quads out there, and this is somewhere between like a quad and a unibody type cog type design in terms of weight distribution, because it's not like these arms are very long. There's a lot of even distribution of weight around the outside, but it has a very smooth spin character. So much like you get that wop bar judder, you feel a certain amount of that with the side-to-side with a tri. The closer you get to a unibody, the more consistent it gets. Now a tri balances the weight significantly better than a bar does. That's why that wobble disappears. But with a quad, it gets even more evenly distributed. So you get less of that, you know, more of just the gyro and less of the feel of the spinner weight. So this guy's pretty good for that. It's an interesting feeling. If you don't have a quad, I definitely suggest picking something like this Spinetic X up or this guy up for that reason. So really good. So good spin times, good fidgetability, right? It's light and fast, because there's so many, you know, there's good distribution of the arms. Pushing here isn't a problem. Pushing here isn't too much of a problem. Not quite as smooth. We can still push it off and get a little warp. See those machine marks flashing? I think we're going to give this guy a stone wash. What do you think? I haven't done a real stone wash yet, so I think I'm going to set up a stone wash and rig. Much like you got to check out Ben, Average Singaporean's video, Slice of My Life. He's got a stone wash and rig. I'm going to set up something very similar to that. But she's good. She's good and fidgetable. She's light. She's fast. She's affordable. She is a good spinner, y'all. So again, the only real criticism I have to say of this guy is the machining. You know, those burrs, those hot spots I was getting. I've seen some other people with this guy not mention that, but I can't imagine that I'm the only one that got a machine finish that had that sort of feel. So I think if you go for the machine finish, just be ready to put a tiny bit of sandpaper just to the edges. You know, you can even put it on like a, you know, wrap a popsicle stick with the sandpaper and just kind of hit it at a consistent angle, so you don't have to worry about hitting and messing up the flats of the machine finish, because I do prefer myself a machine finish. Look at that machine finish. Just the way it plays with the light. Gorgeous. Good little double warp action going on. So yeah, I don't know if I got anything else to say on this guy. I'm impressed with it. I'm pleased. I'm glad I picked it up. I think it's worth the price point at $40, even more so if you can get it at a discount. So check those guys out. I think there is a discount going on right now, but I don't know for how long. So yeah, the Tetra. Did I say that? I don't know if I even called it the Tetra. I think I might have, but that is the name of it. It is the Tetra. It'll definitely be at least in the title when the video opens, right? It's kind of like a little saw blade. It's pretty aggressive. It's pretty cool if you like that sort of thing. So, whoop, whoop, whoop. Should we give it a warp? Whoop, 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 whoop. Sweet. Let's try. Let me see if I can get that double warp going real quick here. really takes that hard spin. So, oh, button's coming loose. Is that fast enough to get it? Whoa. So that one will slow down, and then the blade will come in. That's what we're looking for. Yeah, baby. That's a good one to leave you with, huh? All right, Internet. Kisses.